In general, you'll need a rather large down payment to purchase an investment property, typically anywhere from 20 to 25%. However, there's a way new investors can potentially purchase their first investment property with a down payment of 5% or less, and in some cases, no down payment at all. This investment strategy is known as house hacking. This involves buying a home and renting out part of it while living in the other part. In this video, I'm going to give you a rundown on how it works, how it can be so lucrative, so you can decide if it's going to be a strategy you're going to use or not. Hey, what's going on, my sexy McMuffins? Thank you so much for joining me. Many websites and books talk about creative ways to buy investment properties for little or no money down, such by using seller financing, personal loans, or other tactics. But these strategies aren't always practical or financially responsible in real-world situations. Prior to the Great Recession in 2008, it was quite common to see investment mortgages with minuscule down payments. In the lender's mind, home values always went up, so it wasn't much of a risk to loan the entire purchase price or close to it. Well, we all know how that turned out. In fact, over-leveraging investment properties were one of the main causes of the crash in home values. These days, most lenders want at least 20% down for an investment mortgage. The reasoning is that the mortgage with lower down payments generally require mortgage insurance, and it is next to impossible to find mortgage insurance for an investment property. Many lenders actually require 25% or even 30% down to finance some investment properties. This in addition to closing costs, loan fees, and required reserves. It's actually not uncommon to need about $70,000 or more in the bank to close on a $200,000 investment property. House hacking is actually the cheaper alternative. Obviously, the capital requirement can be a major barrier to entry for some newbie real estate investors. That's where house hacking comes in. House hacking refers to the concept of buying a home with extra units or extra space, living in part of the home and renting the rest of it out. For example, if you buy a triplex, live in one of the units while renting out the other two, it can be considered house hacking. House hacking could also mean buying a large single-family house and renting out the extra bedrooms to roommates, just to name another option in this possible scenario. This is actually a great way to dip your toes into real estate investing, as you can learn basic things like hands-on property management. In fact, one of my buddy's first real estate investments was a house hacking situation. He bought a fourplex right across from a fourplex that I owned. He lived in one of the units while he rented out the other three. Unfortunately, doing this just couldn't work for me because I wasn't too keen on the area and side of town of this particular fourplex. Most fourplexes in Las Vegas, Nevada are in lower demographic areas, and I just couldn't do it. But my buddy did it, and he did it well. I actually ended up selling my fourplex to him several years later, and he actually ended up with 8 total units right across from one another. I actually semi-regret the sale of this property. I wish I would have held on to the fourplex just a little bit longer. This was early on in my real estate career, and I didn't have the knowledge, tools, and resources to maintain the property and navigate through emotions of the tenants. Why does house hacking require less capital? Here's the key point. If you live in a home, even if the home has several living units, it's still considered your primary residence. This generally results in lower mortgage rates and lower lending fees, and may even get you favorable property tax treatment. For the purpose of this video, the down payment requirements for a primary residence mortgage can be much lower than an investment property. Primary resident mortgages can be originated on single-family homes as well as 2 to 4 unit multifamily property. Note, anything with more than 4 units is generally considered to be commercial in nature and is ineligible for residential mortgages. Conventional loans can be made with a down payment as little as 3 to 5%, depending on the property and borrower's qualification. If your credit score is on the lower end of the spectrum, you could consider obtaining an FHA mortgage for your primary residence with as little as 3.5% down. FHA loans aren't the cheapest or the quickest, but they can be a great option for homeowners without stellar credit. If you're a veteran or an active duty military member, you may be even able to obtain a primary residence VA mortgage with no down payment at all. To illustrate how this could work, consider this example. You buy a fourplex, that's a 4-unit property for $300,000. Move into one unit, rent the other 3 out for $750 each. That gives you a total of $2,250 per month. You obtain a conventional mortgage with 5% down, so based on a 4% interest rate, you'll have a monthly mortgage payment of $1,361. That includes principal and interest. And we'll say, including property tax and insurance, you'll pay about $1,800 a month or so to the mortgage company. Not only does the rent you collect completely cover your mortgage payment, but you'll be generating about $450 a month in income. And over time, your tenants are paying down your loan and building equity on your assets. So the question lies, are you a good candidate for house hacking? There's a few things to consider before you think about a house hack situation of your own. For one thing, you gotta live in the property. If you obtain a mortgage on a primary residence and if you don't move in after closing, it could constitute as mortgage fraud. You don't necessarily have to stay in the home forever, but most lenders have a certain time requirement before you can move out of the property that you financed as your primary residence. Just be sure that you know all the rules. Also, you need to be willing to share your space. If you want a property that's entirely on your own, house hacking is probably not the way to go. There's also some big potential downsides. For example, cash flow in an investment property can be rather unpredictable. In our example, the property produces a positive cash flow of $450 a month. Vacancies and unexpected maintenance expenses can quickly erase your income. Furthermore, it can be a headache living next to your tenants. If you own a rental property you don't live in, tenants might call you if something breaks. But if you live next door, they might just come knocking on your door and expect you to handle the situation right away. Finally, from a financial perspective, it's important to mention that you'll need to be able to qualify to buy the entire property on your own. In other words, if you're buying a multi-unit property, you can't use the expected rental income to justify getting a mortgage. You'll need to qualify for the mortgage based on your own income, debts, and credit. House hacking can be a great way to buy your first investment property without having to come out of pocket with tons of cash. However, like most other investment decisions, it isn't right for everybody. It's most important to weigh the pros and cons before deciding if house hacking could be a smart move for you. If you're currently house hacking, I want to know. Leave it in the comments section down below. There you have it, guys. If you enjoyed this video, go ahead and smash that like button. As always, be kind, rewind. Peace.